Avol. This is the shear of Hey Kislev, okay? Shear of Hey Kislev. Avol, however, Dafke Seides HaMitzvah. Only when it's the Seid, the secret of the mitzvah itself. The Legora Milimud Hilcheseha. It's no less than learning the halachas of the mitzvah. V'adarabe, to the contrary, V'chulu, the Seid has a Maila even over the halacha. Av she'eni masek ha-mahus. Although when you're learning Kabbalah, as opposed to learning the halacha, you can't understand the mahus of Elokus because it's ruchnius. There's a mile in learning Kabbalah over learning the halachas. Now, what is this? What is Alter Rebbe saying here? And you'll notice how in the Shnasa Ibur, it finishes one line before the Shana Pshuta, right? Shana Pshuta, the new shir is Masha Ein Kain. And this is, it's mamish in mitna sugya. He ends a shir in the middle of something and starts the next year with a new inyan and goes on to the next thing. What did we learn? We learned that mitzvahs maisias have moedendik milas. First of all, the mila of Yechudim. Second of all, the mila of Birurim. And then the third mila was Hamshachim Mahus Lamhus. Atzilus itself is brought Lamat to do a mitzvah maisis. Al derech zeh, when you're learning halachas, al derech zeh, when you're learning the Kabbalah of a mitzvah. But when you have Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem, and even when you're learning Torah, you'll see later on clearly, even when you're learning Torah, but you're learning Torah, not only with the Hilchas, you're learning Torah, halacha, shenim, shchichais, it's not mamshech, mahus, lamhus, avatzils, lamata, only mitzvahs. Okay? Now, why, when you're learning a halacha, it is mamshech, mahus, lamhus, avalakus, and when you're learning Torah, stam, it's not? I don't know, but I'll tell you what I think. And this is discussed by Riches in the third chelik of Ayin Beis. And I actually took out my Ayin Beis, I opened up to the page, it sat open for 24 hours, I closed the Ayin Beis and put it back on my shelf. It's page Aleph, Reish Ayin Gimel, if you want to look it up yourself. That neighborhood, he talks about this whole Arichis over here. I think that when you learn a halacha, what's the Yeh L'maiseh, you mamshech lamata, the Ein Sof of the Torah. If you learn Torah, which is not a halacha L'maiseh, you mamshech halakus. But the Ein Sof is Behelim, and what's Begil is only the Eira Neshama, as you're going to see later on, just again, it's like Hedish. The reason when you're learning Torah, Liba de Hilchase, you bring on the Ein Sof itself, it's because there's a bittul in that limud. When you're learning Amanas Lases, you know what to do, there's a bittul. And that bittul makes you clear for Ein Sof. When you're stamaz, learning Torah, it's Sof Kol Sof coming into your seichel. Because they're coming into your seichel, you have the Alakus Lefiyech in your seichel, not Lefiyech Amitas HaInyan. But I'm not sure. It's just a svar. Says the Rebbe, Mash Enken B'Seider Ishtalshlos. This that we just said, that when you learn the Seder of a mitzvah, it's just as good as learning the mitzvah itself, which is just as good as doing the mitzvah maisis. That Yemamchach, the Etzem of Alakus, Mehuslam Huslamata, is not true when you learn the Kabbalah of Seder Ishtalshlos, which is called the Sifrei Kabbalah Hakdamas. I don't know if you know how it works. The Sifrei Kabbalah goes in two categories, Eitz Chaim and Pri Eitz Chaim. Eitz Chaim is called Hakdamas, and Pri Eitz Chaim is called Kavonis. Eitz Chaim means learning the map, and Pri Eitz Chaim means using the map in Kima Mitzvahs. So if you're learning Kabbalah, Aliba de Hilchas, in other words, the Kavanah for a particular mitzvah, you mamshech them hus of Atzilus. But if you're learning Stama, the Hidder Shtasha, it does not have that effect. Okay? Af imasek ha-Matzias, even if you do understand the Matzias of Elokus, lo'adav mitzad atzmei, it isn't as great by itself. Kalimud ha-mitzvahs, like learning mitzvahs, halacha l'maisa, or even the side of the mitzvah. Because then, shemasek v'teifas ha-mahus, you reaching and grasping the mahus, that means the Ein Sof itself. Omala love, it's considered yilukim b'pe'al mamish, as though you did the mitzvah b'pe'al mamish simply by learning it in anticipation of doing it. Like it says, zeis hatera. In other words, when you learn in yonim of mitzvahs in Torah, it's as if you did the mitzvahs as well. So therefore, when you're learning halacha l'maiseh, or you're learning the Kabbalah, which is negated halacha l'maiseh, imam cham muslimus. You learn Stama the Seder Ishtalshlos, even though you'll see later on the top of Kuf Nun Ches and Vayter, Kuf Ches and Vayter, he's going to explain that Sof Kol Sof Teir is Alakus, even when it's not a Liba de Hilchaseh, but it's not the Mehus L'Mehus of Alakus. Elo. However, there's something else you have to know. You know what that is? She'ediyas HaMetzias Ma'eh Ishtalshlos Yigam Ki Mitzvah Rabba. There's a mitzvah to learn Kabbalah. And since it's a mitzvah to learn Kabbalah, when you're learning Kabbalah, you're Mekayim the mitzvah of learning Kabbalah, which is a mitzvah of Yidiyas Hashem, so that's automatically Mehus Mehus of Atzilus. Right? Because any mitzvah is Mehus Mehus of Atzilus, learning Kabbalah is Al Derech Zeh Talmud Torah. You're learning Torah. You're learning Torah, which is not a Liba de Hilchas, Allah Hashem and Shchichis. So you're not being Mamshech the Mehus L'Mehus of the mitzvah you're learning about, but Torah itself is a mitzvah. So L'cha'ayra, you're Mamshech the Mehus L'Mehus as much as that mitzvah is concerned. Except that there's one thing you have to remember. Torah is be'ikir a mitzvah in Iyun and Dibur, it's not a mitzvah in Maiseh. And certainly, Yedias Hashem is a Ruchni Zika mitzvah. Talmud tell you could take at least a mitzvah b'dibur. Yedias Hashem is b'chal cheves halvavas. So l'chayr it's a Ruchni Zika mitzvah. You have no asiyah, so... because the Indian of the Mamshach Muslim Hus has to do with the fact that mitzvah have to do with Kalim, not Oyer. That's the whole word. Ella, it's only Sheyadiyas HaMetzias Mei HaIshtashlos, to know say that Ishtashlos, even only in Yediyas HaMetzias, Higamki mitzvah Rabba V'nos, it's a great and exalted mitzvah. But other Rabba, moreover, in a certain aspect, Eil Al Kolon, it's higher than other mitzvahs. As the Pasuk says, V'daita Yem V'Gema, it's a mitzvah no Hashem. And then it also says, Da'as Alakei Avicha V'Gema, it's a separate mitzvah to know the God of your father. Umavia Lelev Shalom V'Chol, brings it to have a whole heart. Right? The Lashna Pasuk is Da'as Alakei Avicha V'Avdeya B'Lev Shalom. It's interesting that one of the boys on the Shas HaTshuvas asked me, what's the pshat in this pasuk? So my Mordechai Chassidus say that David HaMelech told it to Shlomo HaMelech before he passed away. So my Mordechai Chassidus explained like this: Shlomo was only 12 when David passed away. But Shlomo was a Ga'ana Go'inim. David HaMelech passed away at 12. Shlomo HaMelech was already hundreds of years old in terms of Chochmah. So he knew the Eibshter. David doesn't tell him Chakeim V'Havei, he tells him Da. It's not enough to understand the Lakut, you have to bring it into Da. So it should be Negeh L'Maisa B'Peil. And the mitzvah of learning Seder Shtashus is negay, not in Limud, it's negay in Yediyas Hashem. Okay, and it brings Leif Shalom. Shehu ha'ikir, which is the most important thing. And the fact that you're only master, the mitzvah is they're trying to skip it away from Gashmis. But the ikir is not the Yediyah. The ikir is the Leif Shalom. And the Leif Shalom you have. So b'meila l'cha'era, Yediyah Seder Shtashus, is also mamish from Husam Husav Atzilus. So the Alter Rebbe says, Taka, it's true. Rakir is only Shizuhi mitzvah achas mitayag. It's only one of the 613 mitzvahs. V'ha'adam tzarech l'kayim kol tayag. And a person has to keep all 613 mitzvahs. L'fishay nishtalshlos hamahus techitzenes dekelam datzilus, because they are a chain reaction of the mahus l'mahus. In other words, the etzem of alakus of atzilus is nimshach lamata from the chitzonius, as I told you yesterday, the chitzonius of the pnimius of kelam datzilus. It says beferish and ein beis. This means chitzonius means kelam datzilus. Lakach, and therefore tzarech lahar beis. You have to add first of all belimut kol hatayag, in learning all 613 mitzvahs, v'kiyuman, and fulfilling them, v'peil mamash, in actual fact, v'machshava dibur u'maisa, in thought, speech, and deed, shehein b'yah, which is in bria, tzir and asiyah. In other words, machshava is bria, dibur is yetzira, and maisa is asiyah, because this also affects levada bidurim mashasham to affect bidurim. So you should know, yes, Yediyas Hashem is one of the Tayag mitzvahs. So it's true taka that Yediyas Hashem is one of the Tayag mitzvahs. Don't worry about it. It's true taka that Yediyas Hashem is Tayag mitzvahs, but you have to do all the Tayag mitzvahs. Thank you very much. Not just Yediyas Hashem, for various reasons, including because you want to be mamshach all the Kelim of Atzilus, which would be point one, and also because you want to be Mevada Birurim, which you're not so much accomplishing through Yediyas Hashem. Wait 1 second, I want to say one thing before you talk. Igeres HaKedesh Chavtes, which we learned just a couple of weeks ago, the Alter Rebbe also brought this in why you have to do all the mitzvahs. And the Rekud is because you need all the Levushim to Imam Shechalakus in all aspects. So he's saying here a similar thing. So as it turns out, Yediyas Hashem does be Imam Muslim Hus, but it's only one mitzvah, and you have to do all the mitzvahs. Be'ikeh, because of the Birurim and Biyah. Go ahead, speak now.
Why is not the fact of the mitzvah?
There's stiras in my morim. There's stiras. Okay, I could show you 2 sichas that will tell you literally 2 opposite things. In one place, the Rebbe brings, David Melech went to the Merchetz, and he was Adam and mitzvahs, and he remembered Bris Milah, so he was happy. So the Rebbe asked, what about Chayvus Al-Vavas? So the Rebbe answers, because they're mitzvahs Ruchni, it's not mitzvahs Gashmias. And in another place, it says Befedish, that the whole idea of Chayvus Al-Vavas is that you think so hard that you develop new folds in your brain, and you feel so hard that your heart starts beating fast, and that's the maise of Chayvus Al-Vavas. So it's a stirach. I mean, clearly its epis is Yafaran, but it's nicht mamish das. It's not mamish that. But it's not negech. I mean, we're getting too carried away. Now,